All right, we're going to be doing a presentation for my bachelor's degree. My name's Travis Seddon. I work for Fresenius Medical Care. I'm doing my practicum at the Home Therapies department of Fresenius Medical Care, and I'll be doing this presentation for my coworkers and other coworkers for the Home Therapies department over leadership and management skills. Don't have a projector, so we'll have to use my laptop for the slides here. So the purpose of this presentation is to educate the audience of what skills are needed for leadership and management in the nursing field. Being in this role where you're required to not only lead but manage a number of staff members is a difficult task, and it's even more difficult when you add in the patients that you have to care for as well, and your leadership skills affect them as well as your staff members. Let's see here. So we have three goals that we're going to try to meet in this presentation, and these three goals are: the first one, you guys as the audience will give one example of what leadership skills are by the end of this presentation. And then the second is the audience will answer a series of questions on a quiz-like form that I've made on a piece of paper, and at least 3/4 of you all in the room will answer at least 80% of those questions correctly, and from what you gathered during my presentation. And then the third goal is, during this presentation I will present at least three leadership skills during the presentation. So those are my goals for this presentation and the purpose of it. And then we're going to move on to the next slide. The first skill of leadership is communication and relationship skills. To be a good leader, you have to have good communication and good relationship with your staff, and in the healthcare field you have to have a good relationship with the patients as well. And in order to have a good relationship and communication skills, a good leader needs to listen, consult, and involve their staff and patients. So it's important to build a good rapport with your staff and patients. And as a leader in the healthcare facility, you should listen to the staff and patients, as well as consult and involve them when making decisions for the facility, to develop a good rapport with them. It is important as a leader to develop a rapport with the members, and you can do this by creating a favorable environment where their ideas are always welcomed, and employees' contributions to topics that are being discussed are valued and considered when making decisions. Then the same values also go when you're talking to your patients. It's important that you talk to the patients when you're making a change in the clinic that's going to affect them, and consult with them and listen to their ideas and try to incorporate those in the change so that they feel like they're being involved as well, because you're caring for them, and in a dialysis clinic this is their life, and you'll see them 3-4 times a week. Let's see here. Also, when you're communicating with your staff and patients, it's important that you don't it's important that you don't put down their comments. If they say something and it doesn't make sense, it's best to encourage them to maybe change it, or give them ideas that would work better with the ideas that you're trying to incorporate. So you don't want to ever belittle them or put them down, and you just want to take their ideas, and if they're not going to be helpful to the change, then you can just maybe encourage them to change their wording a little bit. Alright, also on communication and relationship skills, we have relationship management. It's best to create a trusting environment with your employees and your patients. If you tell them you're going to do something, then you should follow through with it. You should always make sure that they trust you, and make sure that you follow through on promises so that they'll have a trusting relationship with you, and if they come to you with an issue, they'll know that you'll resolve it, and that they don't have to worry about you lying to them or not going to help them. As far as effective communications, it's good to facilitate group discussions and demonstrate skills in interpersonal communication. If you gather everyone together, have group discussions, people can bounce ideas off of each other and tell their ideas to you as the leader, and you can discuss it as a group, and everyone feels involved, and their ideas are expressed on the table, and you can take those into consideration when making decisions. And it's important as a leader to demonstrate good interpersonal communication skills, to non-verbal and verbal, be able to speak to them, and also express good non-verbal communication skills like keeping your arms uncrossed and showing them that you are welcoming to their ideas. Let's see here. The next slide that we're going to talk about is professionalism in leadership, and good traits for a leader in professionalism is career planning, personal and professional accountability, and ethics. As far as career planning, good leaders challenge their staff and motivate them to reach higher goals, personal and organizational achievements, as well as challenge their staff when they see poor performance in an employee. It's important as a leader to encourage your staff members, encourage them to go on with their career, to want to advance in their career and not just stay stagnant, and you should encourage them to do this as their leader. Along with encouraging and supporting personal growth of their employees, a good leader should always strive to improve their career and seek input and mentorship from others in their own career planning and development as well. As a leader, you should lead by example. I feel like if I'm not striving as a leader to advance my career and advance professionally, then my employees are going to see that, and they're not going to want to advance their careers. So as a leader, you have to lead by example and also strive for the best so that your employees will do the same. Personal and professional accountability. As a leader, holding yourself and others accountable for mutual professional expectations and outcomes is very important, as well as demonstrating and promoting leader and staff participation in the organization and promoting participation in lifelong learning and educational programs. So it's best to be accountable and to strive for your staff members to be accountable, and to encourage them to participate in the organization and in educational things that's going to help build their career. As far as ethics, leaders should uphold ethical principles and corporate compliance standards, as well as hold themselves and others accountable to comply with the ethical standards of practice. As a leader of a healthcare facility, it is important for the manager or leader to discuss, learn, and resolve any ethical dilemmas that arise with their employees or patients in the workplace. Even though this can be difficult at times to discuss ethical issues with your staff, it's very important as a leader to show your employees that ethics is very important. Let's see. The next slide that we're going to talk about, and the third skill that is important as a leader, is the knowledge of the healthcare environment. As a leader in the healthcare career and healthcare facility, it's important to have a good knowledge of healthcare environment and the changes in the healthcare. A few things on this slide we're going to talk about is clinical practice knowledge, healthcare economics and policy, evidence-based practice and research, and patient safety. Clinical practice knowledge, it's important for the leader in a healthcare facility, especially to demonstrate knowledge of current nursing practice and the roles and functions of patient care team members. As the leader, you are the first one to know of changes in your facility and changes in healthcare environment and dialysis, and it's important for you as a leader to demonstrate a knowledge of these so that when you're going to teach them to your staff members, that they don't second guess your knowledge and second guess the new changes in the healthcare environment. The second thing is healthcare economics and policies. Understanding regulation and payment issues that affect an organization's finances. As a manager, it's important to understand like what healthcare changes are going to affect the finances, because you're responsible for your clinic's finances, and you're going to need to know if a healthcare change is going to affect the finances coming into the clinic that could possibly affect your staff and your patients. So it's important that you know what changes come about with those. The third thing is evidence-based practice and research. There's always new research and evidence-based practices coming out, and it's important as a leader to know these and to use these in your facility. Use evidence for establishment of standards, practices, and patient care models in the organization is important. And as the leader of a healthcare team, you should know these changes, and you should know what research is out there that will benefit your patients and your staff. You should bring that to the table, and you should know them as a leader so that you can pass them on and teach them to your staff. And the final part of this slide of knowledge of healthcare environment is patient safety. As the healthcare leader, you should support the development of organization-wide patient safety programs, and you should support the new practices that are going to protect your patients. And you should know what practices and evidence-based research studies are out that are going to best benefit your patients and protect their safety, because they trust us as healthcare providers, and they trust us with their health. And as a leader, we should encourage our team members to really strive for patient safety and to strive to know the new policies and procedures and education that's out there for protecting our patients. The next slide, the fourth skill of being a leader, is the business end, the business skills of leading, like financial management, staffing, and scheduling. As a manager, you'll have to, as far as like in this clinic and my practicum, the dialysis manager in home therapies has to develop and manage an annual operating budget and stick with that. They have a budget that's given to them from corporate, and they have to manage their clinic and staffing and scheduling hours so that they can stay within that budget, which is also two of the other things on this slide. As a leader of a facility, it is a task of the leader and manager to develop and manage an annual operating budget and manage financial resources, as well as educate the patient's care team members of the financial implications of patient care decisions. Staffing is very important business role that the leader takes on, and is something that affects the staff, patient, and the leader. The leader must staff the facility with enough employees to care for the patients in a safe manner and keep within the budget allowed for the staffing in the facility. Scheduling employees is very difficult. People want different days off, so as a manager you have to try to honor people's days that they need off, but also make a schedule and stick with it so that they know these are the days they have to work, and it's just part of the scheduling process. So that's another thing on the business end of being a leader. So summary of his leadership skills, we discussed the importance of communication and relationship with your staff, making sure that you have a trusting relationship, that communication is strong, and that you allow others to put in their input, and you take it seriously and include them in the decision making. Professionalism, to stay professional and encourage career building of your employees, as well as building your career and leading by example. Having a knowledge of the healthcare environment, knowing the new policies and procedures that come through, the new evidence-based practices that are out that are going to affect your clinic, and knowing practices that will provide patient safety is important as a leader. And the final aspect of leadership skills is the business aspect of leading, and building a budget for your clinic, allowing for staffing, and